recently, we have witnessed another sustained, brutal and unforgiving assault on the Palestinian people by Israel, in which hundreds of civilians, including 65 children, were slaughtered. The deliberate destruction of homes, media offices, libraries, police stations, the university, the only COVID test centre in Gaza, all breaches of the Geneva Convention. In other words, a war crime.
Today we condemn the illegal and ongoing annexation, the illegal seizure of Palestinian lands by the Israeli occupier. Today we condemn the illegal displacement of Palestinian families and communities from their homes and from their land. Today we stand in solidarity with the Palestinian people, and we assert their inalienable right to their homes, to their land, to their homeland, their right to self-determination, a right that can never be extinguished. Today we condemn the Israeli occupation and their illegal settlements. We state loudly, we state clearly that Israel violates international law when it forces Palestinian children, Palestinian women, Palestinian men at gunpoint off their land. When they bulldoze their homes, Israel violates international law when it transfers its settlers to illegally occupy Palestinian homes and Palestinian land. Israel has no right, has no claim and has no title to the occupied Palestinian territories. Their land grab is illegal, their settlements are illegal, their behaviour is criminal.
We were all relieved to hear news on Friday morning of a ceasefire in Gaza. After 11 days of absolute bombardment and slaughter, more than 250 people were killed, the overwhelming majority of them Palestinian, including at least 65 Palestinian children. Gaza was subjected to targeted shelling of houses, vital infrastructure like roads, electricity and water networks. But there's nothing new in that. The Palestinian people are forced to live under an apartheid regime. Gaza is an open-air prison enforced by the Israeli occupier. The Palestinian people are subjected to blockades, checkpoints, lack of access to basic amenities like water and electricity.
But many ceasefires have there been over the 54 years of Israeli occupation of Palestinian territory. And how long will this ceasefire last until Israel starts stealing Palestinian land again and continuing to commit war crimes and force the Palestinian people to continue to live in absolutely dreadful conditions? A statement from government condemning Israel's abuse of Palestinians is not enough. Statements such as these have done nothing to stop continued abuse by the Israeli state against the Palestinian people. Israel has continually, over the last 54 years, committed war crimes with no fear of consequences because they've never had to face any. Ireland is part of the EU, and we're part of the UN. And so why are these organisations not doing more to stop this cycle of violence?
The state here has a responsibility to call out the illegal Israeli occupation of Palestinian lands and that system of apartheid that they've enforced for over 5 decades. The world has looked on in horror at the barbaric violation of basic human rights of Palestinians by Israel. The Israeli military onslaughts have driven Palestinians out of their homes in the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and forced them into the open-air prison that's called Gaza, where missiles have recently rained down on top of innocent men, women and children, killing 64 children and hundreds of adults. Palestinians are trapped, denied water, sanitation, electricity, medical supplies and basic building material. They're rendered homeless and stateless by an army that has been complicit and has the complicit support of some of the international community, who should hang their heads in shame. The European Union could have done more, but it has shown itself to be a paper tiger. It has failed to take action, and compare this to the swift and correct action in relation to Belarus within 24 hours.
I do welcome the action that has been taken in relation to Belarus, but this has to also be done on behalf of the Palestinians. And what we have here is, we have a weapon that we can give to the minister. What it is It's accepting the reality the Palestinians are dealing with of annexation. He needs to go to Europe with this, and we need to demand that there are sanctions and that there are consequences, because the Israelis have never had that. And on that basis, they've been able to deal with the Palestinians, slaughter them and steal land. We need to do to the Israeli state what was done to apartheid South Africa. It has to be made to be seen as a pariah. There have to be consequences for war crimes and international criminality.